Steve Biko was not militarily trained. Steve Biko did not have any weapons. Steve Biko did not fire a bullet. Steve Biko did not engage in any forms of sabotage, be it economic, political, or militarily. Steve Biko never killed a human being. Steve Biko never touched any human being. But the fight, they understood that where Steve Biko was bringing the fight, he was bringing it where it starts and where it will end, in the mind. The moment you free the mind of an African, the moment you make the African realize that he doesn't need to be subservient and subordinate to a white person in order for them to succeed, that's the end of white civilization. That is the end of white privilege. So in order to make sure that they make him an example, they had to make sure that they treat him like that, dehumanize him, violate his human rights, and make sure that they beat a man who is handcuffed. You know, when you ill-treat a man who's helpless in that state, it shows the callous nature of the callous nature of the people who were dealing with him. He was shackled. He was immobilized. He was outnumbered. He was unarmed. He was unarmed, they were armed. He was alone, there were many. He had no resources, they had the resources. He had no bullet, they had the bullets. They were privileged. He was not. They were free. He was oppressed. They were empowered financially by the system. He was not. And they were clothed. He was naked. He was tied. They were free and they beat him to death. Only because there is one thing that he had which they did not have. He was ideologically, mentally free. And they were ideologically, mentally enslaved. So they could not do anything to pluck out the ideology and the philosophy of Black consciousness. The slogan of Black is beautiful. They could not take it out from his mind. And they resorted to their second nature, which is murder, murderous, oppressive, and evil. And they murdered him, a helpless man. But they thought that by murdering him, that would be the end. And by making him an example, that would be the end of the Black conscious movement. But like Nelson Mandela later on said, his death was the spark that lit a felt fire across South Africa. Indeed, by dying, he conquered. And by dying, he lit the fire. And by killing him, they sealed their end. And indeed, the struggle still continues. And time will come when truly everyone will become ideologically free, ideologically decolonized, ideologically emancipated, to understand that we must treat each other as peers and not be having the Europeans dictating to us when it comes to our economics. And we tend to see that the geopolitics around the world now, at the current moment, with the war between Ukraine and Russia, is doing us a favor as Africans. We no longer buy that ideology and that propaganda that emanates from Washington, but and the EU. But we can see things for ourselves. We are beginning to see that the world is gravitating towards a decolonized mindset, whereby the civilization of the Western world will not be sustained by the oppression of Africa in particular. And indeed, that example that they set over Steve Biko did work for a time. I think it did shape, to a certain extent, the ideology of the movements that later on came, because they were afraid, and we still see the same happening, that there is still that fear of really addressing the issues that really matter when it comes to the South African context. The South African people were they were dispossessed of their land, dispossessed of their livestock, disproportionately underprivileged, and the leadership is scared to face the bull in the horn, the bull in the eye, and to take the bull by its horns. And we see that they are scared to label white foreigners as foreigners, and anything foreign is regarded and is ascribed and relegated to label an African who is native to Africa, who is in his motherland. And we see the same happening in terms of the economics. We see the same happening in terms of the education system. We see the same happening in terms of the political landscape. In as much as a few might try to address those issues, you see this general fear of being made an example prevailing within our political formations and political movements of the day. But I see that the ideological decolonization of the minds of many African natives is taking center stage now, and it is gaining traction, and it's a positive move that we can observe at the moment. But still, the spirit of Biko lives, the ideology lives. And you can never do anything to an ideology. You can never kill an ideology. You can never kill a philosophy. Never. And we see that we continue to take the banner and moving forward. We will be the determiners of our destiny. We will be the shapers of our destiny. And we will be the shapers and the owners of our future. And the time is nigh, and the time is come, and it's on the horizon. The sun is about to set, and the sun is going to rise for the African child to excel, to overtake, and to conquer their destiny.
It's only a question of time. And the message of Steve Biko goes home. The African people must understand this. The South Africans must understand this.